Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of ATB Wealth Community Spotlight, where we shine a light on the incredible people and business organizations making an impact in our community. Today, we're going to talk about arts, business, creativity, with our special guest, Nathan Flavel.
Awesome.
Nathan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know. I'm
excited
glad
to be here.
we could chat. I know we've chatted a few times, so it's been a while.
I'm nervous because I watch these all the time. Now I'm on one. It's freak me out later. But
So Nathan, you wear a couple hats. You're executive producer and founder of Kelowna Actors Studio, but you're also successful realtor with Sotheby's as well. So you kind of wear a few hats.
yeah, it's been a fun journey. Real estate was always sort of my passion.
Yeah.
And then well, I guess passion, what I thought I'd do for a career.
Yeah.
And then we started Actors Studio, 23 years ago by accident, and it just became the focus. So
it's been 23 years.
Yeah, we're doing our 24th season announcement coming up in about a month.
That's crazy.
24 years. Yeah,
God,
not me. Stupidest thing I've ever done and the best thing I've ever done. All the same thing. Yeah.
So I know we chatted about this before, but for our listeners that maybe haven't heard the story, I'd love sort of like, how did it all start? Like, I always love the origin stories of these sort of things. Like, I imagine people sitting at a dinner table on a napkin saying, we should start an actor studio.
It really, when I say it happened by accident, it kind of did. So we were just telling this story last night. We had our volunteer appreciation event last night. But so Randy Leslie, the co-founder and my partner, was living in Toronto, doing theater his whole life and working at the St. Lawrence Centre for the Arts, downtown Toronto. Yeah. And answered the call for a cross-Canada search for the new executive director for the Rotary Centre for the Arts when they were just building it. So he was the first executive director. And he stayed there. He came out, got the job, and was there for, I think, just under a year or about a year. And 24 years ago, politics in this market with the arts were intense, and he decided that wasn't necessarily for him. So stepped back from the role. But he had already we'd met just prior to that, and we produced a show, and it made money, and people were like, why, how did you do theater that actually you didn't need funding for? Yeah. And so, Randy was also teaching and doing a lot of work with youth in the community. So his plan was to move back to Toronto, and I was like, I think there might be something here. And so we just started a little classes. We were in the old Rob Card's dance studio that turned into the food bank that turned into Metro. We were there, and we were maybe 4 or 5 months, and then I quit my job. And I remember making the phone call to my mom. I was in my 20s, and I was like, I'm going to quit my job and start a theater company. She's like, what? I'm like, I know. But it just took off, gangbusters. And then we always say our 5-year plan became our 5-month plan. The current landlords of our building walked in the door and said, we need a tenant, and we hear that you guys are the ones that are going to run this place. And we were like, okay. So suddenly we had a theater, and the rest is history. But started on a credit card. I paid the deposit. Yeah.
So you say when you started, was it mostly classes you were doing?
That was the concept. Okay. So the idea was to just do classes off the top, and do education in the arts, and then do a few shows. And we were going to do shows at the Rotary Centre and, mainly the Rotary Centre. So our first, we did 3 shows at the Rotary Centre. We did Forever Broadway, which is our first show. We Kiss Me Kate, the infamous Kiss Me Kate. And then we did, while we were renovating the new space, we did My Fair Lady. So those 3 shows still ran at the Rotary Centre, and then we moved over to our space.
So what does it look like today? How much, if you look back 23 years ago to today, even just from an offering perspective, is it still, you still doing classes?
We are, there's so many things that have come and gone, but I think it's funny because we made the move from education more to productions, I think. Okay. But then when pandemic hit, we really made that move back to education, and that was what got us through. And it just that program blossomed. So we started a nonprofit charitable that's tied to Actors Studio, but run by a completely different board. It's the Academy Foundation. Cool. And they do a lot of education programs and scholarships and that sort of thing. And it's linked, but Randy and I are both not on the board, which is super awesome, actually. But I don't want that headache. But then, so that grew, and then come back out of pandemic, and then the production started to grow, and now we're running our big summer production every year at the Community Theatre, and it's just, I think that the best thing about this whole thing is just the growth of the kids, and that the original kids that were there 23 years ago are now doing main stage adult shows, and it's changed who they are, and it's a tearjerker for us, 100%.
Yeah, no, that's very cool actually. So for people that maybe haven't experienced, have never come to Kelowna Actors Studio from a production point of view, What would you say? Like, how would you explain? Because how would you explain the experience to someone that hasn't been before?
Well, it's, a lot of people say we're dinner theater, and we kind of are, but we're not what you would usually consider dinner theater. Dinner theater in traditional sense is, the servers are also the performers, and they do, an improv show or something, and it sort of ties in. Ours is more of a, you can come out, you can have a bite to eat before the show. We have table service. We have regular theater seating behind that, but that all ends. And the show starts, and then we do a dessert intermission. So, but our mandate really for our seasons is all Broadway musicals and Broadway shows. So that's the passion. That's Randy's passion, 100%. And so we've always just done the productions that are, that people expect and want to see, and brought them to stage. And we work hard in our little space, and we routinely get really solid feedback from our productions and of the production level, and because our team is so passionate, like the people in that building, they just love what they do, and everybody just works like. I said this last night. I'm like, sometimes we're passionate to a fault, but the reality is like everybody's there because they just want to make the experience so amazing, and it's just fun. So, I love it. But because of that, because we've been doing it for so long, now we're getting a lot more opportunity from New York. They've recognized that we've done some pretty big shows, that we had some successes. So we now get this year we did Waitress, and it was the first presentation of Waitress in Canada, or in Western Canada. We did Tootsie last year, and it was the first presentation in Canada, all of Canada, for a regional group. And our season announcement has two possible shows that might be the first to be done in this market. So we're getting some, like in Canada, but we're getting some really cool opportunities there.
Very cool. We did Matilda.
Yeah,
it was so good.
Oh, it was fun. I directed that one. I haven't directed for a long time, and came back for that one. It was
the kids are just amazing.
Ridiculous. Our kids blow my mind. Those kids are crazy talented.
Yeah, it's so for people that haven't gone, it's so like, I don't even want to say, like, you just feel like you're somewhere else. Like it's such a cool experience. I think I found theaters like that in general. Like you feel like you're just, I don't know.
There's nothing, from my perspective, again, I think that with the whole world moving to so much AI and so much computer generated stuff, like we had an Oscar that was, best male performance with an, I goes, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. But theater is real. It's real. It's right in front of you. And it, my favorite thing after 25 years of seeing a lot of theater in New York and London and everything is actually when they screw up. I love that so much.
Like they're human.
I know. I love seeing mistakes so much on stage. It just makes me, and I mean, I hate seeing them in my own theater. When they happen in my theater, I'm like, no, God, no. But I don't want to live through them. But I just like the human aspect of it, and I think it's gonna make a huge, not that it needs a comeback, but I think it's gonna be a lot more popular over the coming years, decades, as we just get so wrapped up in AI.
So how do you guys decide? So you said you're gonna have an announcement soon for next season. How do you make those decisions? Like, how do you go about deciding what do you bring in here?
Right.
Like what the theme is? Like, what do you guys?
It's fun. I mean, technically, it's 100% Randy's job, but I will never relinquish complete control. And he'll laugh when he sees this. But it's funny because a lot goes into it. It's a lot of thinking about what's sort of trending, because we plan a year and a half in advance, right? So what's trending, what's going to be coming available, what do our actors want to do, what do our audiences want to see, and then once we get sort of a nice solid mix, then you start thinking about what the theme is and making sure that it sort of works, and it's a fun process. We're right at the end of it. We've just got all our rights have been approved. Everything's ready for the next announcement, which happens in April. And we're super tight-lipped. Nobody knows what Randy and I, we do it every year. Yeah, we don't tell anyone. I love it. And it's just for fun. Like, it's more fun that way.
For sure.
Even the staff don't know. In most cases, some of them find out the day of, but we keep it super quiet. So it's so fun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what's happening right now? What's the next big production that's coming?
We just wrapped up Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The kids did. We had 150 kids go through the program, I think,
so crazy.
With like 10 different performances, 500 costumes. I didn't see Randy for like over a week, but we wrapped that up just the other day, and now we're heading into Singing in the Rain. So Singing in the Rain is it's the greatest movie musical of all time.
Yeah.
It's its moniker, and we did it years ago, and Jordan LeBeau, our sound guy at the time and still, installed a rain bar for us. So we have a full rain bar where it rains on stage during the iconic number, and it's awesome. And we're getting that thing ramped up and refitted and ready to go, and we'll see some fun in that. But it's that golden age of musicals. Like, it's all the big dance numbers. There's so much tap. Like everybody, all our actors and everybody's doing tap workshops in the theater right now. It's super loud, but it's so fun. Like, it's just that that classic musical. So, and then we'll head into Joseph for the summer at the Community Theatre, our big presentation there. We've done that a couple times, but it's such a great show. And then Sweeney Todd coming up in October. And then a new musical, which, I mean, it sounds like the same title, but it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, not Willy Wonka. And it's a new one. It's they did it just a number of years ago in New York. Christian Borle played the lead, and we saw it, and I was like, we need to do that. And
very cool.
So that'll be our Christmas show this year, and it's gonna be great.
Those are some big names.
Solid
awesome.
season. Yeah,
I love
solid.
In the Singing in the Rain, April starts.
April 23rd, I think.
Okay. I thought that's what I saw, but I didn't want to say it. And be
I know. I do that too. I always look it up because I'm like, I'll get the dates wrong.
Something.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm curious on just from I know you're involved in, your passion, obviously arts for you guys have been doing this for so long. Like where do you see arts going in this community? Like where do you see, if you had a vision, if you could if Nathan had the decision on like where arts are going to be in the next 5-10 years in our community, what would you love to see? What do you think is there anything, what's missing in our community? What can we do better from an arts perspective?
I think that's a great question. From the beginning, we've seen so much growth in support, and that's what kind of blows my mind every single year. Even during pandemic, like even during the hardest times, the darkest moments, the community is so supportive of the arts in this market. And one message we say every single season announcement, I end our announcement with the only way that the arts are going to thrive and grow in this community or any community is by people witnessing them, right? So you have to get out and support all the groups, the ballet and the symphony and everything. Yeah. But I love the movement that's being made right now to for a new art center, like a bigger space. Right. I don't think we need to get rid of the ones we currently have. No, I think they're super booked up. But I mean, just baby steps, as we've done it, and keep moving forward and keep pushing that bar and the more opportunities. When we first started, there was a lot of worry about competition, and arts groups being like, we're going to do the show and you can't do a show at the same time, and and my vision then was, wouldn't it be great if we got to a point where, like, you can go see a movie, you're like, we're going to go see a movie on Thursday night. I wonder what's playing. And instead of, you don't pick the actual movie you're going to. But with the arts, it was always like, I want to go see the show. I want to go see that show. Right. But I'm like, wouldn't it be awesome if people said, I want to go to the cultural district on Friday night. I wonder what's playing. And there were more options, and that we had a community. Our community has grown so much over the last little bit. Right. I know that from my real estate world, and so there's all these new people. And I think the biggest challenge the arts have is that people don't understand that we have professional arts organizations in this community that really deliver top-notch theater. Right. And that's always, or theater or symphony or ballet, like all those things are at that high level you expect in the major markets, because so many people just want to live here.
Right.
So,
and to me, arts are is a big part of what makes a community.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it should be woven into the culture of who Kelowna is. Yeah. Right. So.
Yeah. My family's always been involved in parks and recreation. Right. And forestry and all that sort of thing. But when you look at how a community sort of grows, from my perspective, it starts out with like parks and trails, and then it moves on to like sports, and and then the next sort of step is that culture aspect, and then it's weaving them all together. So it's cool to see that we're there, and I love that we're having conversations about new art centers and new centers and a new way to grow that. But like, when was the last time you went to the art gallery? Like, honestly, like it's so good. There's such great shows happening there, and I remind myself all the time, like, just to check it out and see what's going on and run an event there, doing something. But they're so great. We're so lucky.
I'm curious from when you guys started the theater 23 years ago, did you guys have a business background? Because I know there's a business side to this, right? And even on top of that is behind the curtain, all the work that goes into this, the management side, and maybe we see the end production, but we don't see all the work that goes into it. So you kind of speak about that a little bit. Yeah. And I'm curious more, like, how did you just learn on the job? Like, where did you get the skill to actually do the business and the management side of it?
Both. Okay. I think so. Randy came from Toronto, where he had done theater since he was like 15, 16 years old, and worked in arts management and promotion and marketing. Like he had
some of the operations.
Yeah, he had that side down. Okay. And then my background had always been, I mean, my family's just entrepreneurs. I've been working since I was 12 in some way or another. Yeah. I can't stop myself. It's ADHD, I swear. But it's got to be something. But I laugh about that all the time, because I'm like, I don't know many 24-year-olds, because I think I was 24 when we started the company, that that I would say, here, take this company and run with it. Like, or that I would be like, yeah, you should totally start a theater company. Like I would be like, no, run the other direction. Like, honestly, but you just do, and you just figure it out. And you know, have we made mistakes along the way? Of course.
Sure.
You know, like
it's part of business.
I mean, and that you learn more from those, right? So you're, now I just feel like I want to wrap everybody in bubble wrap all the time around the theater. But it was trial by error. Like, I swear it took me like probably 3 years to learn that I had to pay WCB. Like, I didn't even know. Like, I'm like, how do I know this? Who tells you? I was like, I'm just running a theater company. So,
that's right.
and I'm still learning things that I'm like, wait,
sure.
I should be doing what? Like, and now everything ebbs and changes and flows all the time. But I think anybody looking to start a business, you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be ready to go. And even if you've got all the schooling behind you, you learn by doing. For sure. And get in there. Yeah,
the textbooks don't teach you when things happen in real life.
No.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So what is your role? Like, so I mentioned at the start, when did you start your real estate career, like with Sotheby's? It's been how long?
Sotheby's I've been with for about 4 years, 5 years, I think, 4 or 5 years. I recently moved into a managing broker role, so I don't actually sell real estate anymore. I'm the regional managing broker for the interior of BC, which is a super cool role.
Yeah.
I do a lot of training and a lot of,
Very cool.
I joke all the time, my job is to keep realtors out of jail, but my team's awesome, so I rarely have anything that comes up. But real estate I started about, I guess 13, 14 years ago.
Okay.
And it happened out of a sad aspect, actually. My dad was diagnosed with cancer and got, he ended up passing. Yeah. But I decided to go back to hometown, Prince George, and just be with family as, you know, they were going through that for about 6 months. Yeah. And we were going through it. And when I stepped away, I realized that I could not be there full time.
Right.
And the company would still run, because the stuff that I did, I look after a lot of the, payroll and you know, a bit of the marketing and the graphic design and you know, all the stuff that I'm a little bit of the machine behind, but I don't have to necessarily be at all rehearsals and all the, you know, all those pieces that Randy takes care of.
Sure.
And I don't teach any of the kids. Yeah. Luckily for them. So so after that I was like, I think I probably could step away, and really good friend of mine, Tamara Stone, she was my realtor when I was like, I bought my first house at 21, and I just loved the concept of it. And we were out shopping for a house at one point, and she was like, well, if you ever wanted to get into real estate, now's probably the time. And I was like, maybe. So we took that opportunity for me to step away a bit and go into real estate. And it ended up, again, being one of the smartest things we've ever done, because hit pandemic, you know, we wouldn't have survived if we didn't have that, you know, that backup to make things work. So
how much of your time do you spend, like, you know, how do you balance theater and like, how does that work? Are you like just working 18 hours a day? Or,
but I you know, I say to everybody, I'm like, real estate's my job, and I'm there, and I work. I'd like to say Monday to Friday, but I don't. I'm 7 days a week. We all are. I'm passionate about it. I love my team. The theater is like, I don't golf. You know, I don't golf. I don't ski anymore. I used to, but it's
that's true.
It's the rest of the stuff, you know. So, you know, do I do it every single day? No, like anything else, any other hobby. But it's not. It's more than a hobby because it's an ongoing business concern that, you know, does well. But it's, but yeah, you're probably bang on about the 18-hour days, you know. But I love it. Yeah. You know, and
so it's not work.
No. Like it is work, but it's not. Like,
no,
you know, even picking the season and what, like my rule is with Randy, I'm like, I can probably do one or two shows a year. Like I can't be in more than two shows a year, because I can't do it. But then we get, you know, this year I'm in 3. So I'm like, because I could have done all 6 of them. I'd be like, I love them all. Right. I'd love to be in every one, but I'm fighting myself to be like, how do you do that? But
so when you say you're in them, are you actually on stage?
Yeah, I was in Waitress, played a small character in Waitress, and coming up, I'm fun story. We did Joseph twice. I played Joseph both times, and much younger and much more fit. And obviously, I'm way too old to play Joseph again, and it needs to go to somebody else. So, but I still want to be involved in the show. So Donny Osmond famously did Joseph and played it forever, and now he's switched his track, and he now plays the Pharaoh. And I want to follow Donny Osmond's track. So this summer I'm playing Pharaoh. Cool. I still got to get to a point where I can take my shirt somewhat off. We'll see how that goes. And then at Christmas I'm actually playing Willy Wonka in
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that as well.
So those are, when you're doing that must be really long days.
They are. But again, like it's, you know, you finish at work at, you know, your 5 o'clock and rehearsal start about 6:30, and you know, 3 or 4 nights a week. It's when you get into show mode. Well, rehearsals are a little bit more intense because you've got a lot more, you're learning a lot more. When you get into show mode, it's more of a rinse and repeat. But yeah, I mean, you're not getting home till 11:30, you know, 11:30, and you and you're back up at your job the next morning. But it fills the well, and it doesn't again, it just doesn't feel like work.
So how do you find like you time and relationship time and like how do you guys separate?
I feel so attacked right now. No,
no,
because this is the real thing. Yeah. It's true though. Like that's
it's because business owners. I think that I'm like you. I'm a workaholic.
Yeah.
Right. But you have to I have to make time for family, for my spouse, for my
honestly, that is the biggest challenge. That's the challenge of life. If I could figure that out, like I would start another business. But the reality is, I think somewhere in there. I mean, I've got so many friends that I just haven't seen forever because we get so wrapped up in the theater. And I'm like, if you're at the theater, you're going to see me more often.
Yeah, fair enough,
and it's horrible because you're like, I've got best friends I haven't seen, like routinely, and it bugs me. But at the same time, they know what I'm doing. They're not mad. I'm not mad. But and they know where I am. But it's that balance is the trick. That's it. Like I found, over the last probably 3 years, I have a limit. So I'll get to a certain point of the day and I'm like, now I'm done. So now
at least you know that.
Yeah. And my joke is I just need to, sit on the couch and stare at the wall for 2 hours.
That's
and that's it. So I knit though, because I can't sit still. So
you're not really sitting still.
No, never. I can't focus on one thing at a time.
Fair enough though.
So I'm sitting there knitting on the couch, drinking my port. I'm a little old lady at heart. I really am.
I love it. I'm curious is there a production that you haven't done that you're like, we'd love to do this? Like say there's budget, nothing. Is there something that like comes to mind that you're like, oh my gosh, it would be amazing if either you could be in it or at least bring it to the community?
There are so many shows, but there's so many shows that are just limited that we can never do, right? That you can't get the rights to do because you've got to get permission from New York to do.
Fair enough.
I mean, just because it's relevant, last night we had a volunteer appreciation night, and just for fun, a show that we'll likely never do because we'll never be able to cast it in this market, and I can't imagine it's ever going to be available for rights because it's going to be locked down forever. It's Hamilton, and I love that show, but I specifically really love the King George role in the show because it's so sassy and he's such a dork. So I did his number last night for I think full regalia. I got the costume, the crown, the whole thing, and sang his number from Hamilton, and it was so fun. But that like there's an example of something we'll just never get to do. It's like Wicked. We'll never get to do that. Like they're not gonna. That show's been running on Broadway for as long as we've had Actors Studio, so it's just not ever gonna open up. But it'd be so fun, to do those shows if and when.
I mean, you've been in this for so long now. When I'm sure you guys, you go to New York, you must go other places to see.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember a time where you just like were just absolutely like floored? Like you just walked into a production, you're like, oh my gosh! Like even though you've seen so much that you left going, oh my gosh.
Honestly, like I feel that happens more often than not. Like I love we routinely try to get to New York or London. Right. We just were in London a few months ago for the previews of Devil Wears Prada with
that'd be
cool. It was insane. Yeah. It was so good. Elton John's musical, and we had a great time. Saw a number of other shows while we were there, but I think I legitimately walk out of the theater almost every time. Yeah, like most shows get me in some way. We just did Waitress. The production we saw in New York blew my mind, and I was like, that story needs to be told on a much larger scale, like in smaller communities. And I was so excited when we got the rights to do it and to be part of it with that cast. It was just awesome. But I think that's the magic of theater. Oh, I know which show just recently blew me away. We were in New York last summer, and we saw The Notebook. They made a musical out of it, and it was so funny because people were crying in the first half, and I'd never seen the movie, so I also really like going into theater where I've never seen anything. And we're sitting watching the show, and Randy had seen it, of course, seen the movie, of course, and I knew nothing. So I mean, I knew bits of what the show was about, but first half, people are crying in the audience, and I'm like, okay, like there's a guy in front of us that's like sobbing. And I'm like,
right.
I'm like, I mean, it's a sad story, but let's get real. Well, he must have seen it before because he was just prepping himself. It was intermission. Randy's like, so like, what do you think of the show? And I was like, well, and as I said, I just burst into tears, and I was like, okay, like it's hitting me. It's hit me somewhere. And so we got back. I'm like, let's talk about it later. So we sit down, we watch the second half, and by the second half, I was crying louder and harder than the guy in front of me. And I was like, what the heck? But we walked out of that theater, and I was sobbing for like a good 15 minutes. I'm like, what has this poked? But I love that about theater. Like I love that it gets in and under and pokes, and it's something you didn't even know was lingering there, and just gives you a poke, And I like that show. The minute we get an opportunity, it's just such a great show.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What about from all the shows you did here and all the times? Is like what's a memorable moment? Is each show have its own little memorable moment?
100%. Like you always have like and every famous lines around the theater from the audience and also from the actors. You know, that was the best show ever, or that was my favorite show I've ever seen. And you know, that was the best theater experience ever. Like the actors say it too. But if I'm going back, I think I've got two moments. They both happened at the Community Theater that probably stand out for me personally. One was playing Bert in Mary Poppins because I got to fly in that show, so I got to tap dance up the proscenium and then across the ceiling of the Community Theater, and that will always have a special place. And then I think it's something with flying, because then I also a couple of years later played Ursula in Little Mermaid, and that was possibly just the coolest experience. I also flew in that one, so I got to fly out when I got murdered, and but it was just like, it's just so fun. Like, so theater, you just get to escape and have a ridiculous time.
So lots more shows where you're flying. That's what I'm hearing.
I need to do more shows where I fly. Okay. Yeah, I know. As I get older and heavier, though, I don't know if I want to do that anymore. But I got to say earlier
that happens to all.
I know. Unfortunately, it seems to be the way it goes. Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks so much. It's been fun chat.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
So, and you know, I want to leave everyone, if you are interested in learning more, you can go to the website Kelowna Actors Studio. .com and all the shows are there. Buy tickets. It's an amazing experience. I'm a big supporter of arts and culture in our community. I really believe it's like, it is what the fabric of what makes a community. I really do. And when you go, it's like it's such a different experience. It's not like the movies. Like we're moviegoers, but theater and movies, you can't compare. It's I
actually don't usually like movie musicals. I'm so addicted to musicals now that the minute Randy's like, even going to see Wicked, the movie, Randy was like, "Do you want to go?" I was like, Can we watch it at home? Yeah, but I did, and I loved it. But he has to drag me to those.
I love it. Anything else you want to leave the audience?
No, it's just a thank you. Yeah. Thanks for doing this, and for the more promotion of the arts in this community. I love it. So
awesome. Yeah. Well, Nate, thanks so much for coming in, everyone. We always encourage you guys to share these videos, like them, because we just got to get the word out as much as possible. And a big thank you to ATB Wealth for sponsoring this as well. And we'll see you next time. Thank you. Thanks, Nathan.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.